I'm going to mute me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. I am so excited for today's call with my dear friend, Courtney Townley, the founder of Grace and Grit podcast. Her Grace and Grit, she's an amazing Grace and Grit coaching business. And she and I have a long history. We're trained in very parallel, similar concepts, but we kind of take our own angle at it, I guess.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah.
Right? And it's every time we get talking, like we could just go on all day. I feel like it's so much fun.
We won't do that today. That would be,
No, we won't do it today, but it's like, we just have the best time. So you guys, today Courtney is here to talk with us about this concept of how do we go from I should be living a life of self-care to I am. It is how I am, how I eat, how I breathe, how I walk, right? How I think, which is a big piece. And we had Courtney, just to kind of fill you in, we had a coaching call a couple days ago where we talked about like identifying the one desired outcome we're looking for in life, and then what thoughts and actions can we create to support that, to be in that alignment, so that we don't get overwhelmed with like, I need to do all of these things, and we're feeling really pulled in different directions, which I feel like is a piece to getting into the I am living a life of self-care versus I should be.
I think it's huge. I think a lot of people with health and wellness, I think we always approach it from the action perspective, right? We start with the actions, like what to eat, how much to exercise, all of these shoulds, right? Which are action oriented. But the reality is people ultimately are not going to sustain those actions if they aren't changing the mindset and the beliefs behind it. Like that's the bottom line. And I think for some people, action can help create a little bit of motivation at the beginning, but we have to be willing to do that inner work.
Totally. It's so important. It's so important. So what would you say, like you have had an amazing, beautiful, long career with many more to come, many more years to come, but tell us, like, what would you say are some of the top, like, what's the entry point that you find people having success with in terms of both bringing up the awareness? Because if we don't even realize our thoughts are where they are, if we have self-sabotaging thoughts, or I've learned so much about some of the subconscious thoughts I had that were really impacting my health, right? So like, what is the entry point in discovering what these thoughts are that are impacting us? And then how do we begin to shift them to bring us into the present so that we have the capacity to take care of ourselves so much more easily and with joy?
Yeah. I think really one of the easiest entry points is asking yourself the question, number one, why am I not taking action? Right? Why am I not doing this thing? And that's something that, I don't think we spend a lot of time thinking about. Like we do kind of have these surface level answers. I'm too busy. I don't know enough. I don't know. But I think when we really examine why we're not doing some things, and we think about the thoughts behind that, there's sometimes thoughts we've been carrying since we were kids. In fact, a lot of times it's thoughts we've been carrying around since we were kids.
Totally.
And the second part of the exercise would be asking, why do I want to do this work? Right? What do I want to feel? Because I'm definitely a big believer, and it sounds like you are too, that our thoughts, right, create the feelings, and the feelings drive the action or the inaction.
Yes.
Right? And so if we aren't willing to look at or ask ourselves first, what am I feeling? Why am I not doing this thing? What are the thoughts behind that? And then what do I want to feel? And if we know what we want to feel, then we can start changing our thoughts to line up with that. And here's where people get, I think, a little bit lost, because we start making stuff up. You can't make stuff up. Like if I want to feel happy, I literally have to think of something that makes me happy. Right. Or if I want to enjoy exercise, I can't lie to myself and say, I've always loved exercise, right? Like I have to think of what is something that makes me actually look forward to exercise.
Yes.
And something as simple as, and this is something I tell people all the time, I have never really exercised and not walked away from it feeling like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. I feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sometimes just knowing, like reminding myself that, okay, Courtney, like I know you don't want to do this thing right now, but let's just think about like the after the fact. Like, what is that going to bring you? You've been here before, you know it's going to turn your emotion around. And that inspires me to take action because now I feel better. Instead of telling myself, I've always sucked at exercise, I've never liked it, I've never been athletic. These are the things we get caught up in. And then it's no wonder why we're not taking action.
Totally. Yeah, it's so true. And I think Lisa actually shared with me the other day, she's like, I went walking and I think, Lisa, you put on like your favorite podcast, right? And then she's like, yes, I forgot that you were on mute, but she's like, I went walking and because she made a commitment to go walking every day. And then she's like, yeah, it's not always my favorite thing, but like I'm making this commitment to myself. And then she was like, but I put on this great podcast and I enjoyed it. And then I saw a post where she's like, and when I was walking, I was thinking about gratitude for my body, gratitude for the space I was in, going to a new place, like going on a new adventure. Those are all such amazing action steps really that you can do to enjoy the movement, right? Enjoy exercising. Or it could be like, if you don't love maybe cooking, do you like dance? Like I love to dance in the kitchen. It's like my favorite thing to do. Like blast some music, dance in the kitchen while you cook. How can you make it fun, right? But I want to go back, Courtney, to first, like I want to kind of unpack this because what you're sharing, it's like simple, but there's a lot to it, right?
Yeah.
So if I were to say, okay, Courtney, the reason I am not, let's just talk diet. The reason I'm not like following the diet I want to live, not diet, but like eating healthy, anti-inflammatory eating, whatever it is. I'm not taking out processed sugar or cooking in bulk or whatever it is my goal is, right? For my diet, for my food, is because I'm feeling like I have 2 little kids at home. I'm working full time. My house is a disaster as it is. I volunteer. I have all these other commitments and I all like them. Like it's all part of my life. It's who I am. And I just don't have time. I feel overwhelmed. Like those are the reasons why I'm not taking care of myself. Mm-hmm. Where would we go with that?
Yeah. Well, I would first remind the person that you need to eat, right? And eating requires, like that is a requirement of your biology functioning properly. Yeah. So you need to eat and you're going to have to take time regardless to eat. Whether if you drive to a fast food joint or you throw in a microwaved meal, like you're going to have to take some time. Mm-hmm. And I think often we tell ourselves stories about how labor intensive something is. Mm-hmm. I do this a lot with finances. I will tell myself, I don't want to pay my bills because it's going to take me all stinking day. Right. And there's this pile of bills on my desk and I can get so carried. I can literally create an Oscar nominating script out of my unwillingness to pay my bills. Yeah. But the reality is, and I've improved my relationship with this a lot over the years by allowing myself to take smaller bites and lower the bar of expectation. Nice. Because here's where I feel like what a lot of women do is when they say, I want to start eating an anti-inflammatory diet. They look at your cookbook or they look at something online that really is kind of a big ask in some ways. It's like they're interpreting it that they're supposed to overhaul their entire life overnight.
Right now,
today. And if I can't do it perfectly, there's no point in doing it. But here's my belief about that response. If I can't do it perfectly, there's no point in doing it. That is one of the ways we rationalize not taking any action. Mm-hmm. That's what that is. It's rationalizing not doing the work. What we're looking for is some consistency. And consistency and perfection are not synonymous. Yeah. Consistency is just a small step. It's a baby step. I always refer to it as a small circle. Learn how to draw small circles of expectation for yourself. Mm-hmm. So to the mother who says, my house is a mess, mm-hmm. and my kids are driving me nuts and I have all this laundry to do and I just don't have time. I would ask her, what's in your kitchen right now? Let's just list maybe 5 or 6 things that are nutritious for your body that you have in your kitchen right now. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure we can create a meal out of those things.
And so often I feel like in our minds, we also, I know I do this, I'm totally guilty or used to be a meal has to be this recipe. It has to be this full put together, beautiful plated thing. Right. Whereas I love how you said we could look in your kitchen and look for 5 things. Like, do you have an apple? Do you have like a banana? Do you have like just some simple whole foods that you could reach and put onto a plate? Like, often in our family, we'll have some sort of protein and like a fruit or vegetable. And that is our meal. Like, it's so simple, requires such little work.
The other thing I think is really helpful is if we can allow ourselves to start thinking on the spectrum of good, better, and best. Because you know what? The best is not always an option.
Yeah.
It's just not. Like I have an 8-year-old son and his schedule's nutty and my schedule's nutty and he has soccer a couple times a week and it's a little tricky. Like it's a little tricky for me to come home and cook the way that I want to cook most nights. Mm-hmm. And so I allow myself to think on that spectrum of good, better, and best. And so maybe instead of roasting a chicken and having this whole home cooked meal, I might buy a rotisserie chicken that day. Right. And I buy it from a place that I know they source their meat well. And yeah, it's got seasoning and it's probably going to cause me a little bit of a sodium hit, those kinds of things. But you know what? It's a good option.
Totally. I have chills right now because it's so important. And that allows for us to feel a sense of accomplishment, to feel a sense of empowerment, because we are still taking care of ourselves versus, you know, what may be a really easy go-to is like, I don't have time. Let's just swing through McDonald's. Let's grab some chicken nuggets real quick or a burger or whatever. Right. And that is not going, more than likely, is not going to feel good in our minds. If we're wanting to create these levels of self-care, driving through something like that, often we then go like, that is this action that takes place that creates these thoughts of like, oh no, like, what have I done? I'm a failure. I can't do this. And then we're like, oh, well, I might as well give up for the day. And then that just cycles on to the next day and the next day and the next day, right? Like we're done.
My motto, and I encourage all my own clients to think like to get used to saying this motto, something is better than nothing. So you know what, if you can't meditate for 20 minutes today, can you do 3?
Yeah.
If you can't cook 3 beautiful meals, happy, like anti-inflammatory meals today, can you cook 1?
Yeah.
You know, like that permission takes so much weight off, literally, like takes so much weight off.
Yeah, right. I love it.
When we feel successful, we will continue to do the thing and we'll probably put a little bit more effort into it. Mm-hmm. But if we feel lousy because we're aiming for this impossible notion of perfection, we know, research has shown us that when we feel lousy and we beat ourselves up and we shame ourselves, we're actually going to sabotage ourselves even further. Like we're going to engage with more behaviors that actually don't serve us at all.
Well, and we look for evidence, right, to prove our thoughts are correct. So if we are thinking, if I wake up this morning and I like make myself some sort of like healthy meal that I feel really good about, right? I don't know. Maybe I make myself a smoothie or some scrambled eggs and some kale or something really yummy. And I'm like, oh, this feels so good. And my body feels good. And I'm like, it's raising my vibration mentally and emotionally. I am psyched. I'm feeling empowered. I am going to look for more evidence in my life to prove that I am empowered, I am healthy, I am in the state of wellness. So what will that evidence be? Like, oh, let's drink this water. Oh, this is fun. Going for a walk is so nice out. Like you move into this natural state of gratitude, right? We're constantly looking for evidence to prove that that's right. But if we are in that state of shame, of guilt, of failure, right? Then again, we look for evidence to prove like, oh, look at all the times I've messed up. Look at, oh, you know, again, I might as well reach for the Oreos or forget the water or walking socks or, you know, whatever it may be. We look for this evidence. It's the law of attraction, but it's sometimes phrasing it in this idea of like evidence, looking for evidence to prove that we're right is a natural progression that we go through, but we also have the ability to choose our thoughts, to pivot that thought if we are in a funk, if we're feeling, say I did eat coffee cake for breakfast and I wasn't feeling great about it and I was feeling like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. Like, what if I change that thought around? What if I say like, in this moment, I have the ability to drink water. I have the ability to like eat a hard-boiled egg or go for a walk or do something, meditate, do something that feels good. Then I can choose this thought and ask, what evidence do I have that proves I am empowered, that proves I am gaining health? That can be so powerful.
Yeah. And I do think that to change our health story, we really do have to take responsibility for the fact that we often set ourselves up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
We just do, because we set ourselves up for failure in that we try to take on way too much, way too fast.
Yes.
You know, and then we prove to ourselves that we're failing, which is kind of something we're already believing anyway. I'm not going to succeed with this thing. And so then I'm going to create an environment in which I don't succeed. So I can just revalidate that I can't do this.
Yeah.
Right. And it's this vicious cycle, and it can last forever. Yeah. And so it's interesting. I just had a 6-month program start, and we're in the first week of the program. And literally the first habit my clients work on for 2 weeks is they commit to one 5-minute action step. And this is painfully small and painfully like simplistic for most of these women are really high achievers. Like they have accomplished great things in their life. They're hard workers. They can handle a lot.
Yeah.
But because of that mentality that they can handle a lot, they keep failing with their own self-care. Because they expect to change their exercise programs, their diets, their sleep, their mindset, everything in the span of a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And that is not how change happens, because for change to happen, we literally have to put our thoughts back into the forefront of our brain. And our poor little brains can only handle a little bit of that at a time. And so I just encourage people, pick one thing. Pick one small thing that you're really fiercely committed to working on, and prove to yourself over the next 2 weeks that you can be consistent with it.
Yeah, I love that. I was talking to a therapist a while back, and she made this comment about trust. And she said, trust equals consistency over time. And I think that so much of this is leaning in and trusting ourselves. Right? Like, do we trust ourselves to be empowered? Do we trust ourselves to gain health? Or are we already thinking I'm going to fail? Right? Are we already like anticipating the falling off the wagon or whatever it may be? And when we can create those small shifts, that consistency over time, we learn to create a new relationship with ourselves that's full of trust.
Yeah. You know, I think I've long talked about this, that I think one of the reasons, the diet industry, right? Like that one of their tactics that most programs are 21 days, they're 6 weeks, maybe 12 weeks at the most.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges with that is, if you think about it, what happens in those time frames is novelty wears off. The thing's no longer new. Right. And so the program ends, and then the person participating in the program is like, okay, well, now what? Because, the novelty, it was still new for that period of time, but now I'm out on my own. It's no longer new. And now I don't have the skills to sort of move me forward.
Right.
So I always tell people the real commitment happens when novelty wears off.
Yeah.
When the thing that you have committed to is no longer new, that's really when you start to understand your depth of commitment.
Yes. And sometimes that shows up because you feel so much better. Like when the novelty first showed up and you felt that contrast and you're like, oh my gosh, this feels so damn good. Sometimes that is the like inspiration. I know for me, when I started this journey, I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can go back to like my old ways. Like, not happening. Never, ever would I ever want to live that life again. But sometimes, right? Sometimes we don't have like necessarily these chronic symptoms or these big major things. And the contrast isn't always as big. It can be subtle, but I think I always say when we feel really good can be the most dangerous time for us in terms of self-care. Because when we feel really good, it's so easy to be like, oh, great. Now I can I don't need to drink all the water. I don't need to do all these self-care things that I was doing before. When in truth, it's the X, Y, and Z that all added up to get you to feel so good. So if you want to keep feeling good, we need to keep doing the X, Y, and Z, right? We need to keep doing the parts to the puzzle that help us to feel so well. But it's easy, especially that diet mentality, like, oh, I finished this program, or I finished this cleanse, or I finished this and I feel great. Yay, I deserve ice cream, or I deserve, a cake or cookie or whatever. It's really interesting to see how as a society we have molded our thoughts into this paradigm.
Well, I think with like anti-inflammatory eating, right? We work at it and we get more familiar with it, and we do start to feel better. And then feeling better becomes your new normal.
Totally.
right? And we get used to that new normal. That's what normal is, right? It's like that constant state. And then we start to get, like you said, this probably isn't a graceful way to say it, but I always say to my clients, we get a little bit cocky. Like, I'm feeling good, so I can have this thing. And you know what? You can have maybe a little bit of something, because your system is now not so like jammed with toxins. So your liver is designed to handle some toxicity a little bit. But if you make that decision every single day for a week, because now you're giving yourself that permission. I hear women all the time say, oh my gosh, I don't know how I put this 10 pounds back on. Well, I know how. I mean, I'm pretty sure we know how it works because we made that compromise day after day after day because we were feeling so good.
Yeah.
And then of course that adds up to not feeling good. So I totally agree with you. I think that's a very, very real thing.
It's so true. And just to make a note, like the little bit that we have, I always tell people, and I know Courtney, you do too, it's about listening to our body, right? Yeah. Like if you eat even a little bit and it doesn't feel good, that's your body telling you something. Depending on what is going on with your body. Like when I was really, really sick, I had no variation for me to eat a little bit, like it would knock me down. Mm-hmm. But so everyone, if that happens to you and you're like, wait a second, I'm supposed to be able to eat like a little bit here and there. Like, again, it's not that something's wrong with your body. No. This whole process is about learning to listen to your body, learning to love your body, and following through with what your body is asking for you. Like there is no deeper, more beautiful relationship that I have experienced than that itself.
But I think that's a really important distinction, because I think when we are really in the throes of not feeling well, right, that is your body saying, I can't handle any hits right now. I can't handle any more insult to the interior of my body. Yes. But as you start healing, right, as you start unloading that weight off of your body and you do start to regenerate and become more resilient again, there may be an occasion where your best friend comes to town and you decide to have a glass of wine with her, and you're not going to necessarily go off the deep end because of it.
Yeah. Totally. So, okay. I love all these pieces that we're talking about. They're like such gold nuggets, and everyone that's listening right now, I hope that you're having some ahas and you're like, oh, this is how I see it playing out in my life. So if we put all these pieces together, again, going from the I should to I am living this life of self-care, right? We've talked about identifying stories. Like, do we make things difficult? I'll tell you all, like right now, before we were getting on this call, I was thinking, my body could really use an Epsom salt bath. And then I was like, oh, but then I won't have time to like get all like fancy and professional. But in my mind created a story that it would take a lot of time to get dressed for this Zoom call. It is so crazy because it clearly doesn't take very much time to get dressed, but this is just an example of what our mind can do to twist things and takes up the energy and the space that we could otherwise use for self-care, right? It will stop us. It's like this block, this obstacle that can stop us from taking the actions or thinking the thoughts that support you in terms of self-care. So we've talked about these stories, and we've talked about finding evidence to prove your thoughts and your actions support you if you're feeling empowered, if you're feeling healthy, right? But also if you fall off the wagon, or if you're having a tough day for some reason, you're beating yourself up, how can we pivot those thoughts and then find evidence to support that you are empowered, you are healthy, you are loved, whatever it is that you are looking to accomplish? It's so powerful. Are there any other tips, Courtney, that you can think of, things that with all the women that you have accomplished and helped throughout the years that really are pivotal in terms of moving into this space of, I know we talk about our thoughts are so important and they are the foundation, but then the thoughts lead to the action, right? So the thoughts and action steps that can make a big difference. And one of the things I don't want to forget out was this idea of like trying on a simple action, like something you commit to for 5 minutes a day for 2 weeks, right? That can be really powerful in and of itself.
Yeah. And I think you named another thing that I always touch on with my clients, which is that gratitude element.
Yes.
Because it is so easy to get into a space of berating yourself or your body for all that it's doing wrong or all that it isn't. But the reality is you're still here. Your body is showing up every day for you, no matter how you're treating it. Like, you're able to love the people you love, go to your job every day, interact with the world, because your body has not given up on you.
Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable, considering how crappy some of us have treated our bodies over the years.
Mic drop, we're done.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so,
it is so powerful.
yeah. And I always use the word grace, because to me, grace is that self-compassion piece. And I feel like the gateway to grace is gratitude. It's just getting in a habit of noticing what your body is doing right. Your eyes are blinking, your heart is beating, you woke up breathing this morning, you have your limbs intact. Like, there's so much that's going well. And I think when we can start being grateful for what is going well in our body more often, we tend to respect the things we are grateful for. Mm-hmm. And this is a really big distinction, I think, because there's all this talk right now about self-love. And I'm a huge, I think that is an aspiration we should all have, to get into a space of self-love. But to be totally honest, most of the women that I work with are so far from self-love that asking them to just love themselves is a huge ask. It is big, it's like they have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
And so I always tell people, we don't have to start with self-love. Where we can start is self-respect. Just respecting that your body needs you to show up for it so it can support you in all the things that you're asking of it every single day. Yeah. That's it. And when you acknowledge that your body is showing up for you, it's kind of like your husband showing up for you every day, or your kids showing up for you every day, or your coworkers, and you never acknowledging what they're doing for you. Yes. Or never being kind to them, even though they're clearly going out of their way to help you live a better life. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't tolerate that. And yet that's exactly what we're doing to our physiology.
And there are, for some people, this can be like, oh, whatever, that's like woo-woo, or there's this mindset thing that is like a nice thing to do, but it doesn't really shift us or change us that much. And there are a lot of studies out there. Dr. Asamoto is one of them from Japan, who actually studied what happens to water crystals when they are spoken to. So he had these vials of water that all came from the same source. He would put them down on a table. He would take them and speak different words like gratitude, love, compassion, and then the others, hatred, shame. Like he would come up with these negative connotative words, and he would speak to them and put labels on each of the separate vials. And then he figured out how to document the water crystal from each of these vials. And what he discovered is that the water crystals that were spoken words of positive affirmation were the most beautiful, what's the right word? Like just the most beautiful crystals, that everything, like all the parts were equal. And if you think of like a winter, like fairy tale land of snowflakes, like that's what they looked like. And you can Google his work and you can actually see pictures. Then he took the vials of water that had the negative connotative words, the shame, the anger, the hate, etc. And he took pictures of those water crystals, and they looked deformed, much like a cancerous cell, how it often looks very deformed and deshaped. That is what he found consistently through all of his work. And considering that our body is made up primarily of water, just that scientific connection alone will tell you how impactful our thoughts are about ourselves on a cellular and molecular level within our body, physiologically, scientifically, right? Not being woo-woo. It is so, so powerful. But then when you also just think of the mindset, like if you are in a space of gratitude, then like you just want to keep feeling it. So it's like, all right, what's the next fun thing I can do that makes me feel happy and joyful and grateful?
Yeah.
So powerful.
And again, there's been so many studies that show that when women are sort of promoting negative self-talk and beating themselves up when they give themselves a permission that might be slightly out of line with what they want for their life, they will consume more of the things that are out of alignment with what they want because they're negatively talking to themselves. So we know shame, you cannot hate yourself into health. You cannot beat yourself into health. You cannot abuse yourself into health. That never works. It never, ever works.
Yeah.
I know. And, you know, we have some, you know, a lot of examples of really, you know, fit people who seem to have all their stuff together. I can't tell you how many of my clients have been trainers and coaches who look fit, but what's going on in their head is it's so horribly destructive, and they are in no way, shape, or form an example of health.
Right.
And that's why they're seeking out help.
Yeah.
So I think that we really have to sort of expand our definition of health. It's not how you look. It's literally, you know, how vibrant you feel. It's how much you feel, you know, your body is supporting you in all the endeavors that you want to take on in life. And your mindset, of course, a huge piece of that.
I love that. How your body is supporting you in all the endeavors you want to take on in life.
Yeah.
Think about everything you guys do every single day and how your body is supporting you and what else you want to accomplish. We talked about this in the first coaching call, that one thing. What's the one desire, the one, like, if you had to choose one desired outcome in life, what would it be, right? And we people say things like, I want to love well. I want to be like a leader and empower the women in my life and my family, like these big, beautiful goals. And so what does it take to reach that? And certainly being healthy, not just by what we look like, but like you said, having our body support us to accomplish that goal. Like if we don't have our body to support us, it's very difficult to meet these goals.
Yeah. I'm going to give you two of my favorite exercises just for this, like to get really clear on where you're headed and why. The first one is to weigh the costs. Like, what is it costing you to not change your health story?
Good. Yeah.
Right? Versus what will it cost to change your health story? Because there's a cost to changing your health story. Yeah. Like you will have to lean into some discomfort. You're going to have to probably do some things that don't seem all that fun initially, right? Like there is a cost to improving your health. But when you write side by side the costs of both of those, it's really evident how less expensive it is to lean into improving your health.
Yeah.
Versus staying where you are, because a lot of us are in a space where we're just feeling kind of, we just know we're not living in the place or space that we really could be and that we truly crave because of where we're at. Yeah. But the other exercise that I love, and this sounds so silly, but I'm telling you, if you do it, it's really powerful. It's called the 5 whys. And it's asking yourself, you know, the first time, why do you want to improve your health? Why did you even sign up for this course? Right. Yep. And you're going to come up with some answer that I want to feel better. I want my arthritis to go away. I want to sleep better. I want to be less reactive. All of those are great answers. Mm-hmm. But then ask yourself again, why do you want to feel less reactive? Yes. Why do you want your joints to stop hurting? And you come up with that answer and then ask why again. And what happens is by that 4th, 5th, maybe you even have to ask it a 6th time. But by the time you're kind of done asking those whys, your reason is so much more powerful than I want to lose weight or I want to feel better or I want to whatever. I will tell you, I've had so many clients do this over the years and the answers always give me goosebumps. Like they're so stinking powerful. And usually they include the word peace. I want to have some kind of level of peace in my life. Yes. Which I think comes down to integrity, lining up our actions with what we say we want for our life.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, that's a very, boring way of saying what they say, but it's really a beautiful way to get to the root of what this is about for you. Because it's not about the look. It's not really even, yes, it's about a feeling. But there's something that you really crave that you don't currently have, and you need to uncover what that is.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I love, love, love that. So as you guys, we are going to open this up pretty soon to Q&A, unless Courtney, there's anything else you want to add.
No, but I will bring it full circle because you and I did we did in the,
I was just about to talk about this. Yes.
We did a conversation around passive versus massive action, right? So passive action is being on the call today, right? If you showed up, that's awesome. And it's an action. But where change really happens is in the massive action. And massive action is not massive action. It's just taking action, right? So what are you going to do with the information after the call?
Yes.
Like that is where I would really encourage people to kind of lean into, because this is information gathering, and hearing, ideas and things like that are so helpful. But don't just listen to it, do the 5 why exercise.
Right.
Create one of the recipes today, right? Create one great meal, like give yourself some sort of action to follow through with today, because that's really where the transformation starts to happen.
It is so powerful. And with that, Lisa, would you mind just sharing? So Lisa, oh my goodness, she decided to take action a couple days ago in the world of gratitude. And just doing something super, super simple. Lisa, will you just share with us like what you chose to take action on, how much time it actually took you to do this, and what has transpired in the last few days from that?
Sure. So basically the main thing that I've done is drinking my water. And that's the one thing, and there's actually a couple, but the main thing I've done is drinking my water, and it's not even the full gallon, but I'm really, really close. And today I'm going to hit it. So that's my intention for today. And in 3 days from drinking the water and from committing to at least 15 minutes of walking, which I've done more, but I'm only committing myself. I have to walk 15 minutes. I don't care how fast I do it. I just need to get outside, feel the air, and take pictures if I can, because I love to take pictures. Yeah. So I'm and combining what I love to do with the things I don't really want to do. Totally. So just by doing those few things, I've already lost 2 pounds of inflammation. And I totally have been just feeling grateful for what my body is doing, because that's my biggest aha that I had with our first coaching session. And was, I am expecting my body to do a lot of things, and I am beating it up emotionally, physically. And I believe in the fact that if we show, doing the gratitude journals and everything, I believe how much that changes our mental health. Yeah. I am expecting it to change my physiological health now as well. So.
I love that you are expecting that. You're already seeking the evidence that is happening. Therefore, it is happening.
Amen.
That
I
is
believe it.
So beautiful. And just to feel your energy, that it feels like it was such a shift from that aha of gratitude. To me, it was anchoring in that gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for my eyes. I'm grateful for my legs that can move. I'm grateful it can take me on a walk. Just really being grateful for even just these parts of our body that we take for granted.
Right.
And how that just has transpired.
Can I share one more thing?
Yes. Yes.
So I am in a place of I had just gained 15 pounds. Okay. And it's because I had stopped one eating plan and went on my, eat what you want, and so I was free. But so 15 pounds later, I'm living in regret, right? And until that's where I went to, was living in regret. And then, so yesterday, a pair of jeans that I wear consistently, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel a hole in them from the wear and tear, right? And I'm like, okay, that's okay. That is okay. And this is just one of those symptoms that is reminding me that I need to show up well for my body, and I can do my walk, and it's all going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. I would have normally, had a little pity party and maybe eaten something, but I didn't. So I'm already feeling empowered in that way.
It is so
awesome.
Yeah.
Can I say something? I think, so often, and I think it's something that's conditioned into us, that we almost withhold joy and happiness and fullness from ourselves until we get somewhere. Until I lose the weight, until I lose the inflammation, until I get rid of the condition, whatever it may be. But the reality is it actually works the other way.
Yes.
If we can get ourselves into a space of gratitude and joy and just kind of pleasure in our bodies, the work gets so much easier. It really does. And yet, and to me, it's just crazy that like we even have to say that, because it just should be like a known fact. But it's mind blowing to me that we actually focus in the opposite direction. Yeah. Like we're stalling, we're waiting until we get to that place, whatever that place is. But the reality is, if we can't find it now, it's not going to be there when we get there.
So true. And Lisa, when you said like, I tried on these jeans, and you're like, okay, you found compassion and love for where you are right now. And by feeling that gratitude in the past, you would have reached for something. And instead you continued to take steps to feel empowerment and to gain health. Like, that is the gold nugget right here. I mean, I just have chills listening to you. That is what this journey is about. So beautiful. So beautiful. I'm giving you a huge virtual hug. Thank you for sharing. I love that. Okay, so you guys, I want to open this up, and if Pam or Catherine, if you guys have anything that you'd like to share, wins that you've been experiencing as well. I mean, we've only been at this for 3 days, but 3 days can do so much, right? Like 3 days can be really, really powerful. We don't need 3 days. We need one moment. We need one thought that can be the like catalyst for changing everything. So if you have any wins, any ahas that you'd like to share with us, I am a firm believer that when we share our wins, when we share our stories, when we share our ahas, we inspire other people, we motivate other people, and we all experience what is possible when there's this little nagging thing saying, oh, you can't do it. Or you know, like we all have this little, I sometimes call it the shady bitch that's nagging at us, right? The more we just are around and open and hear other people's stories, I feel it's so powerful. So Pam or Catherine, if you guys have something, oh yay, Pam saying.
So I've gotten to almost a gallon of water a day, not quite, but almost, but 5.5 pounds have dropped off. And I have blood sugar issues, and so it's been so hard for me to lose weight that I really thought there's something wrong with the scale. And yes, I try not to eat any sugar, but I really do think that drinking all that water is making a huge difference. So, and I have to leave to catch a plane, but I wanted to catch as much of this call as I could before I had to leave. So
amazing job. Like Courtney said, choose one thing and be consistent with it. Like that is that one thing. And this is why I have people do this the first week without really changing their diet, is because I want you to see the profoundness of that one simple thing, drinking a lot of water, right?
Yeah.
And as you continue in this journey, as you go on this flight, as you take your trip, my question to you is like, how will you continue that one thing to have that consistency?
Yeah, and I have a little anxiety about that because although I'm staying in a hotel, our event is kind of in a remote spot with limited resources. So I can take some water with me, but it's going to be challenging to get a gallon in. And the lunch facility and what I can do about lunch is also limited. So I'm trying to think excuse me, I got my sugar-free cough drops too. I'm trying to think ahead on how I can best navigate that, and what I can pack in my pockets and in my purse.
What comes to me too is what Courtney told us at the beginning: good, better, best.
Yes.
Right? Like, yes. Do the best, do what you can, like, and feel good about that. Feel good about that. So planning ahead, thinking about what can I bring, you know, if you have access to water first thing in the morning, drink a bunch of it then, or when you do have access to it, you know, go to the grocery store if it may help, but also just feel really proud about what you're accomplishing. And Courtney, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add there.
I just wanted to say, it could, because especially because you're going to the airport, I would take an empty water bottle, and as soon as you get through security, you can fill it up. You know, and to take it on the plane, and then hopefully, you know, there'll be access to some kind of water at the event, and you can fill, even if you have to fill up the water bottle in the sink. I always take empty water bottles with me everywhere. because
Yeah.
then I have less reason not to drink water. I mean, sometimes you're just in those positions that it's just not possible. But I bet you'll find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And strategically, this is like a strategy. I love the logistics conversation here, but strategically think about like, okay, if we're going to have like a lunch break soon, or, we know there's going to be a break coming up, like drink a bunch of water 30 minutes before so that you get it in and you have an opportunity to use the bathroom. Like think about timing too.
Yeah.
Or if you're on the plane,
Because
right?
we're using porta potties and all the ladies will be lined up. So
Right.
Yep. Hustle on over there. Oh, well, it sounds like fun.
it will be. It will be.
Enjoy. I'm so glad you were able to make it today, and have a safe travels.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm sorry to dodge off here, but I need to finish getting out the door.
No, you're good. You're good. And thank you for sharing. I'm really,
Yes.
really happy for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, do you have anything you'd like to share, or questions? Anything coming up? Oh, wait, hold on. I have you on mute. Let me unmute you. Okay, there we go.
Hi, Jenny. It's Katie.
Katie, hi. Oh, Katie, hi.
Yes. So I want to say that I read your book about 6 weeks ago. So I'm kind of ahead of a lot of the folks who are just jumping in now with your class.
Uh-huh.
But I jumped in, both feet being perfectionistic, started drinking my gallon of water a day, went through my pantry and my freezers. I got rid of 2 ice chests full of food and probably about 15 bags, grocery bags.
Wow.
Just took it to the pantry, gave it to my kids, whatever. I just got rid of it. My husband's looking at me like I'm completely crazy, and I'm like, this is not going to hurt you either. And I started trying to cook the way I'm supposed to. I immediately cut out all my sugar, except a couple times when I've messed up with dressing in a restaurant, just not thinking early on. And I've just been trying to be a renegade researcher. I am cooking more than I have in a long time because we were just doing restaurants because I felt so miserable all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And to make a long story short, I went to the clinic yesterday for treatment again. And my blood in the last 4 weeks went from having a ton of ghost cells and Lyme and all that stuff. My ghost cells are completely gone. About 2 weeks ago, before I had to travel and then I got sick, I had 5 days in a row where I was up and I was moving all day long, and I haven't done that in I don't know how long. And I think it's more about this program than it is about what they're doing at the clinic. I think it's the food and drinking the water and making those really important changes that I haven't done consistently that's really making the big difference. So I just want to say thank you for, I don't know how it happened. I think it's a God thing that I read the book and then you opened the Facebook page at just the right time that I could jump on and get more understanding. And now this class is just incredible. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm tearing up right now because I have so walked your path, you know that. And
I know.
I'm really, really grateful to you for showing up for yourself, because that's what this is all about. And your body is speaking to you and it's thanking you. Your body is flooding you with gratitude. Right?
Yeah.
An incredible gift. There was something though that I want to ask you about, because you said I took everything out that I should have taken out, right? And this kind of you're like, I'm doing everything that should. Is there? You're feeling so good, but is there like an underlayer? Is there anything that's coming up around the perfectionist piece, the shoulds? Like, I don't know why this is just popping up, and Courtney, you can hop in here too if that just hit me. Sometimes I just get these hits, right? Is there anything there for you that?
Oh yeah, I'm so perfectionistic. That's why I jumped in with both feet and said I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, which is awesome. To take massive action is great, right?
Right. But I realized in this call today that I need to be more gracious to myself and to be more supportive and pat myself on the back instead of like yesterday when I fell off the wagon and I was so mad at myself. And I'm like, okay, you ate stupid biscuits that you weren't supposed to, but you know what? You ate well-caught flounder, you know? You ate a salad with no dressing on it, and you only put vinegar on it. You picked all the croutons off and all the cheese off because you forgot to ask for that. So, yeah, you know, that's probably the first time I have purposely stepped out and rebelled is because I got thrown off at clinic yesterday with that whole dairy thing. It's like, well, if I can't do that, I might as well not do anything. But then I did make good choices in other ways. So I just patted myself on the back for the good choices and said, those biscuits will come out some way and I'm back on track.
So you know what I think is great about that too, though, is that I always call it breaking the chain, where you looked back at the day's events to figure out what triggered eating the biscuits. And you did that, and no one prompted you to do that. Like, that's something you did totally on your own. And that is such a powerful tool, because I think that goes all the way back to how we started this call. You know, our circumstances we really can't control, but our circumstances are where we have an opportunity to create thoughts, right? The thoughts create the feeling creates the action. And when we can kind of reverse engineer that process and figure out for ourselves, why did I do that thing? Look at it with curiosity, not judgment. Like, isn't it interesting that I had that experience at the clinic yesterday, and then I wanted to eat this thing that really isn't in line with what I want for myself? So what could I do next time I'm in a position where I am, whatever you felt in that moment, because what did you feel in that moment at the clinic?
Kind of like all this work I'd been doing was for nothing, because now they're telling me something totally different.
Yeah. And how did that make you feel?
Like a failure.
Like a failure. And when we feel like a failure, we are not going to take action, because we're going to prove to ourselves that we're a failure.
Right.
Right. And so my point being, I think that as you continue to stay curious, what's going to happen is you're actually going to catch yourself in the moment thinking what you're thinking, that I'm a failure. And you're going to have a choice to say, you know what, no, I'm not. Look at all this good work I'm doing. I have been working so hard at so many great things. And I have evidence that things are moving in the right direction. That's simply not true. That's a lie.
Right.
And that's going to make you feel empowered, and empowered is going to help you to take a different action.
Right.
Push those cookies away or whatever it is, you know?
Right.
So really, I think that's amazing that you did what you did.
And also, go ahead, Katie.
Here's another amazing thing. This spring, I had to go to Michigan for another death in the family. And while I was there, I gained 15 pounds, like in 2 weeks, because of all the garbage I was eating, because it's just everywhere in my parents' house. And so this time when I went, I said, I am not going to do that again. I don't care what everybody else is eating, and people were bringing in all kinds of food. I don't care what anybody else is eating. I am going to go to the kitchen and make myself what I know is good for me. I did not eat one bite of one thing that I shouldn't have eaten. I was so proud of myself when I got home and I had lost 2 pounds.
So awesome.
I was like, how did that happen?
You're finding evidence to prove yourself right, and you keep taking action that is aligned with that, with your thoughts. Right. Just like yesterday too, when you were like, okay, maybe I fell off the wagon for a quick second, and like immediately you're like, and I'm back on, right? That is powerful. That is so powerful. Amazing.
One thing that I think is it's a really helpful tool whenever we find ourselves in a position where we're eating something that, you know, we know isn't really going to serve us or is going to make us not feel so great later. It's not even to deny yourself the thing, but it's to be fully present and to go slowly with it. Because when we're emotionally eating, nobody eats slow. Like, we're shoveling it in. And the reason we don't eat slow is because then we don't have to be mindful of why we're doing it.
Right.
right? Like there's strategy behind that.
Oh yeah.
So when we can actually like say, okay, I'm going to have the thing, I'm going to have the cookies, I'm going to have whatever it is. But the only requirement I have of myself here is I'm going to go slowly. And it's incredible the power of slow, because all of a sudden you become aware of why you're doing what you're doing, how it's making you feel. And I guarantee you won't take it as far.
Wow.
You won't.
That's
Courtney,
good.
that might be my favorite thing you've shared all day. That is so good. I used to tell myself when I was like tired, stressed, and hungry, I would stop at the gas station after what I used to teach after school, and I'd like get a Twix bar because it was my favorite candy, and I'd unwrap it and I'd tell myself if I eat it really fast, it doesn't count. And I would do this all the time, and I would not leave the gas station until the Twix bar was gone and the wrapper was in, by the way, not in my car, but in the gas station. I did not have to see it, and it was like, oh, it did not happen. So that is brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, it's buffering at the finest, right? It's like literally we're engaging with something, not even because we're hungry, but because there's something we don't want to feel.
Totally.
And I always remind everyone, there's not a feeling, an emotion that's killed you yet. Not one. Like you have endured every emotion in your life. And so if we stop being afraid of feeling things, we will be more likely not to buffer with food, which is, where we get ourselves in trouble.
Yeah. So powerful. Oh my goodness. I love this. I am so grateful for all of you. Courtney, thank you so much for
my
coming on.
pleasure. Absolutely.
Lisa, did you have a question? You shared, but I want to make sure you get opportunity to ask Courtney anything because we have her here. I'm so grateful. We're so lucky. Any questions coming up for you, my dear?
I don't think I have a question, but I really picked a lot of pieces out of what she shared, and now I have some more action plans to try to implement.
Yeah, good. Be gentle. Be gentle. It's so funny. My company is Grace and Grit, but I feel like I'm always coaching on the grace side. Grit is something that I feel like has been conditioned into us now more than ever. Like there were this culture of hustle, do more, expect more, build more, be more. Right. But what I think grit is, sometimes it takes grit to extend grace to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's really where I see that we need more grit, is we need to give ourselves permission to back off, be kind, be grateful. That's where grit comes into play. It's not about pushing harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed when you were talking that I think that I'm a very kind person to people.
Yeah.
But I am not kind to myself.
Yeah.
And so that really struck me, that I just need to be kind to myself and grateful.
Yeah. And you're so not alone in that. I worked with a therapist for a long time, and one of the exercises she had me do was write down my thoughts, which was awful because I was horrified by some of the things I think. If you had asked me what I think in a day, I never would have written those things down. Right. I would not have thought I could say such awful things to myself. Yeah. But when I actually looked at what I wrote on paper, I was really horrified that if anybody in my life talked to me like that, they would not be in my life.
Right.
So I'm the perpetrator of that. I'm the one who's allowing that to be in my life. And so I just need to get rid of it. I need to throw that in the trash can and set it on fire.
Yeah. And when we talk to our body like that, which so often we do, right? It's this analogy, and I shared this with the first call, it's almost our body shows up for us constantly, like Courtney was sharing, right? We can walk if we want to walk somewhere, if we want to get on the plane and fly somewhere, if we want to, whatever we want to do, our body is always there responding and saying yes to us. Mm-hmm. Yet it's telling us yes unconditionally, and then we're like, yeah, put the middle finger up at it, right? What is this relationship? And even just becoming aware of it, I think can give us so much freedom. That's amazing. Well, I know that we are at 11 o'clock, or 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to thank you again, Courtney, for showing up. And Courtney has an incredible podcast called Grace and Grit. I will be sure to post the link in our Facebook page if you didn't see it in the Freedom from Inflammation group. I've had the honor of being on it twice, but she has so many incredible people that come. And as you all have bared witness to, Courtney has these incredible ways of these nuanced thoughts that for me just bring so much insight. And she delivers that every single time in our podcast. So definitely, if you're looking for something to go for a walk or listen to in the car, it's a great, great option. So I'll be sure to share that with you guys.
Thank you. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
guys.
and I'm cheering you guys on.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Good job, you guys. We'll see you soon. See you in the
Thank
group. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.